Great innovation stories make change possible. Each week on the Innovation Storytellers podcast, I invite innovation leaders to share how they overcame the obstacles to introduce breakthrough ideas to the world through the power of story. I'm featuring guests from Tesla, TD Ameritrade, Corning, Cisco, Bloomberg, and so many more. Listen in to learn how you can tell a more effective innovation story and change the future for the better. Welcome back, everyone, to Innovation Storytellers. I'm Susan Lindner, your host, and I'm doing something a little bit different today. You're all accustomed to hearing all the great innovation storytelling works that happen in Fortune 500 companies. But today I wanted to take a walk down a very different path. And I'm excited to have one of the most cutting edge artists on the program today, David Drebin. Now, if you don't know David, I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro, but I think the podcast will speak for itself. David Dreven is a multidisciplinary artist working in very many different art forms, producing everything from limited edition photographs and light boxes and neon light installations to sculptures and even etchings on glass. David doesn't let his artwork be confined to just one medium. He is also a publisher of many books around his photography. And he sets these stages with his photography that I'm sure you've never seen before. Everything from this beautiful glow of diamond dust to this rich encounter of power and sexuality and glamour and everything that we dream about when we think about urban scapes that we wish we could be a part of, or maybe even we wish we could be a voyeur into. But David's innovation in his artwork doesn't just come from looking through the lens, it's actually looking into the future. And that's part of what we're here to talk about today is what is not just where an artist gets their inspiration, but then how do you innovate the inspiration for a market that maybe isn't even there yet, and you go ahead and you create it. So welcome to the show, David Dreven. We are so ridiculously excited to have you here today, our very first artist on Innovation Storytellers. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I have so many questions. It's hard for even to know where to begin, but I want to begin from the beginning. What made you pick up the camera?
The last thing I wanted to do was be a photographer, ever. So I had a roommate in Vancouver where I was living at the time, and he was taking photography classes. It was 1992. When he told me he wanted to be a photographer, I was like, you are the biggest loser I've ever met. You're so artsy. You're so creative. And then I was taking cooking classes at the time, thinking I wanted to be a chef.
How old were you, David?
I was 51 now, so I was 22. And he came home and he showed me these photographs and he laid them out on a table. And it was of his coworkers, and basically their eyes jumped off the page and it was like magic to me. And that very moment I looked at him and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Do you mind if I go to the same school as you and take a couple classes also? And that was the moment he looked at me and he goes, you're a total loser, but why don't you join me? Because I'd been making fun of him for being so artsy and so creative. And that was the moment. It was like a religious experience for me. It changed my life.
Wow.
22, 23. And from that moment on, it wasn't really about picking up a camera. It was about having a tool to express my imagination. And the camera was the best tool for me.
So what did you learn in those initial classes that kind of set you on this path?
How bad I was when I first started, actually. That's what I really learned. I was like, this is a lot more difficult than I thought, because I was using film and it was very technical. There are a lot of numbers, shutter speeds and apertures, and I couldn't understand the concept of like f11, f16, f22 and shutter speeds of 250, 125. And it really is a craft to really learn how to use aperture and shutter speed to get the desired outcome that you want. It's very technical. People don't think it is now because they have an iPhone and they think they can just take a picture, but it's almost like you can ski, but to be a professional skier is an entirely different thing. You can play basketball, but to be a professional basketball player, to be at the elite level, it takes a lot of work, a lot of practice, and a lot of relentless pursuit of your passion.
So, thinking about that, so we're talking about 1992, 1993. What happened between that time and 2005 when you had your first solo exhibition and camera work in Berlin? What was going on between 93 and 2005 for you?
I realized when I was in Vancouver at the time, because I'm Canadian originally, that if I wanted to make it, I had to go to the place where it was the toughest, where all the greats went, and that was New York City. So I figured out a way to go to New York, and I was admitted to Parsons School of Design. And I went to Parsons, and I wanted to get an undergraduate degree. And I got an undergraduate degree from Parsons. I moved there in 94, graduated in 96. And then from 96, when I graduated, I just pounded the pavement with this portfolio that I created when I was at Parsons, and no one gave me a chance. And I went from magazine to magazine and advertising agency to advertising agency. And I'd worked as a waiter. But the best training for me was working as a waiter, because I learned what people wanted, what they didn't want, how to deal with difficult, stressful situations. So then I finally got a job after hundreds of meetings all over the world. And my first job was 1998, photographing Jewel, the singer, in Boston with her mother for the London Sunday Times magazine. And I got the job on my birthday. I was just turned 28. I got my first job, and I was still working as a waiter. Took a train to Boston. I was so nervous. I'd never been so nervous in my life. And I literally thought I had all day with her. And then her publicist was like, okay, Jewel's ready in 5 minutes. And I was like, 5 minutes? I need much more time than that. And the publicist was like, no, you have 5 minutes. That's it. And I was like, all right. And literally, it was like, I just got it. I got it fast. I got it in 2 minutes. I was like, okay, I'm done. And that moment made me realize that I could handle pressure situations, because I had handled that from when I was working as a waiter. So working as a waiter had taught me how to handle pressure. And then my education with learning the technical and the technique with photography, it was all, I was ready for that moment.
Isn't it amazing what waiting tables teaches you? I mean, I think it's like a fundamental skill that every kid in high school and college should have, to know what it's like to serve the public,
Pressure.
serve the kitchen, get it out on time, and with a smile on your face.
Pressure.
Oof.
Some people wilt under pressure. Other people love pressure. I love pressure, but I don't feel pressure. But I felt pressure in that moment. I overcame that moment. And now I love moments of nervousness. I really love those moments.
How do you feel looking back at that picture you took of Jewel today?
I don't really look at the picture. I look at the moment of nervousness that I overcame. I don't really see the photographs. I see the experiences. I'm the only one who sees the experience. All my collectors around the world, they see the photograph, but I don't. I see the experience, and I relive the experience of creating the image.
So your body of work is so varied, and beginning with photography, maybe it's, I don't want to say beginning and ending with the photography, but that's the starting point, right? So Love and Other Stories was the beginning, and we'll include on the website some of these beautiful images so people can see them, linking back to your site. But this was kind of like this zeitgeist moment, right? When people really began to recognize your work globally when you did this show in Berlin.
It all starts with self-belief. The greats always knew they were great before the world knew they were great. I'm not just saying that about me. I'm saying that about anybody who believes in themselves. I think you have to believe in yourself first. And once you have that unbelievable self-belief, and you love the process of almost trying to convince the world to see you the way you see yourself, everything unfolds from there.
It's a fascinating revelation. We talk about on this show that innovators are responsible for painting a picture of the future that everyone else around them can't see yet, because they're responsible for ushering that future in. And I think it's really fascinating that you say that about self, is that we actually have to paint a picture for our audiences of who we are so that they can see us as we see ourselves.
Whenever I meet anybody, I always think to myself, are you a believe it to see it person? Or are you a see it to believe it person? It's like instinctual. I look at everybody I meet. Do you need to believe it to see it? Or do you need to see it to believe it?
What about you for the rest of the world? Which one of those are you?
Well, obviously, I'm a believe it to see it person. I had a vision in 1992. I still think back at those 5 photographs that my roommate showed me where their eyes jumped off the page. It was almost like magic. And from that moment, I've been creating works all over the world. I've never taken my eye off the prize, not even for 1 second. A lot of people, they try one thing, they try something else, and they go through life being good at a lot of things, never really great at one thing. And so for me, I just have been unbelievably focused on the journey of creativity and constantly catering to my imagination and using the different tools to get these images and ideas out of my mind, whether it's making photographs, making sculptures, making light boxes, doing books with my publisher, making diamond dust prints, etchings on glass. It never ends. Even conversation, it never ends. Public speaking. It's all about catering to your imagination, because if you don't cater to your imagination, it will turn on you, because creativity really is everything.
What does that mean? It will turn on you.
If you don't listen to your inner voice about what it tells you to do, then it will play tricks on you. I really believe that if I don't photograph for a while, my imagination will start saying to me, what, you're not taking pictures anymore? You're not good anymore, are you? You're going to rest on your laurels? Yeah? You're not going to photograph anymore? Okay, I'm going to punish you now. I'm going to really punish you. And I'm like this to my imagination. Okay, I'll make photographs. And then I make them. And then I feel like it talks to me, that inner voice, and says, okay, you did it. Don't stop. Because I'm giving you this. And you're just a messenger for the universe to unleash your creativity. It's not even me. I really feel like I'm a messenger. It's not David Drebin. I didn't name myself. My parents named me. And I think it's an accident that my parents are my parents. The universe created my parents, who created me, to actually be a messenger of creativity for the world.
So let's talk a little bit about that creativity, because when we think about bringing in new ways of looking at things, new ideas to the world, and by the way, to the market, right? Here in this podcast, we talk about innovation as leading to value. It's not just enough to have a great idea. It actually has to prove itself in the world. And so I want to talk about some of these collections that you've created that have stunned us and mesmerized us. And some of those are the incredible Femme Fatale photographs, the way that you see women from an innovative perspective. Can you talk a little bit about the inspiration behind some of those works?
I was raised by very beautiful, strong women, and a huge collector base for me are women. And most of the women that I photograph are older women with a past and a future. So it's really important to me that women love my work far more than men. Because when a woman loves my work and they see the power of the woman in the image, that's the ultimate compliment for me. Because that's a very sensitive topic. And I have a lot of female collectors, a lot, all over the world. Different cultures, different mindsets, from Paris to Berlin, Miami, New York, all over the world. When a woman messages me and thanks me for empowering women in my photographs, I don't really get any credit, which is important for me on this one topic. The women I photograph are generally older women, because I have to respect their past and their future. And I love that mid moment for them in their lives, their past and the experience they've had and the dreams for the future. That's what stimulates me. Not some young 18, 19-year-old girl who wants to be a model. Doesn't interest me at all. It's the ones with the stories, mid-30s, 40s, 50s. I love strong, powerful women.
And so it certainly feels that way. These images of women, sprawled on a couch with an atlas across her hips, thinking about where to next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So many women have bought that image too, and they thank me. The ultimate compliment is when a woman purchases one of my works from a gallery and then hangs the image of the girl above her bed. That always blows my mind. And they message me and send me the actual image above their bed. And that's such a great compliment for me.
That is a sacred place in a woman's
Exactly.
life. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've got so many videos where they say, this is my favorite image. It's hanging above my bed. I'm like this, I can't believe you did that, but thank you so much. So for me, if you love what you do, everything will come. I always thought I was going to be a waiter. I never even thought about this as a business model. I just thought I'll be a waiter and I'll make photographs during the day. I'll make $100 to $150 a night and I'll be happy in my 500 square foot, one bedroom in Manhattan that I had for 25 years that I recently just gave up. I finally bought the right place for where I'm at in my life and career, but it was really hard to give that apartment up because that's where I built this dream in a little one bedroom in Soho.
Oh my gosh, you sound like me. I started my agency at a fifth floor walk up, 500 square feet, one bedroom, just one long, narrow hallway.
Yeah. When I'm in New York, I still walk by 100 Sullivan Street and I look up and I think to myself, 25 years in there, almost 9,000 days.
And how many photographs and how many negatives, right? that you went through in that place. Millions, maybe.
The pacing back and forth. All my friends would say, "Are you pacing? Are you pacing?" I'd pace up and down that apartment, 400 square feet, back and forth, in the kitchen, in the bathroom, in the bedroom, back in the kitchen, looking out the window, back in the kitchen. It was nonstop pacing, strategizing. How do I make this happen? How do I do this?
I think that's called synchronized walking now. I think that's an actual workout.
Maybe. I just had such a unbelievable belief. I never really looked at the gardens. I always looked at planting seeds. And too many people, they look at gardens. I look at seed planting. I'm in the seed planting business. I don't ever look at the gardens, ever. I never look back. I always look forward, never back.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about sales because it's not a small thing when it comes to art. We all know the idea of the starving artist, but at some point you moved past that. What is the philosophy an artist should consider if he really wants to break out of that category and begin thinking about building an artistic brand?
It's a great question. The problem most artists have today is they price their work too high in the beginning. And for me, when I had my first show, it was a group show at Fahey Klein Gallery in LA, and Elton John came in and literally bought half my images in that show.
Wow.
And at the time, I was selling my images for $1,200, and I couldn't believe that someone would spend $1,200 on one of my images. That was 17 years ago. And then I started getting different galleries all over the world who wanted to work with me. And then I started to slowly raise my prices from $1,200 to $1,800, $2,400, $3,000, $3,400, $3,800. And it was a slow rise. So once I built my relationships, built a track record, and started making books with my publisher Tenois in Germany, then we slowly raised the prices that matched the track record. A lot of artists lead with ego and not their minds, and they should start at a much lower price point to build their collector base. And then once they build their collector base, to slowly raise their prices over time.
So pricing is a really important part of any sales model, but I understand that people don't buy David Dreven photographs. What do they buy?
I've never really seen myself as a photographer. I've always seen myself as my own brand. And people started buying my work, and I used to hear my gallery saying, "Okay, you want to buy a Drebin? Okay, so you have 2 Drebins," and someone would message me and say, "I have 4 Drebins." And then I realized that I wanted to be like Nike and Adidas and Warhol, where people would be like, "I bought a Warhol, I have a Nike, I just got some Adidas, and I bought a Drebin." And this was something that was kind of presented to me because I kept on hearing people say they're buying Drebins all over the world. And that's when I realized I think I'm onto something here. And I have a lot of people. What's really interesting, it's very hard to have someone buy the first work. But once they buy one work and they're invested, I have people who have all my artworks, neons, light boxes, sculptures, diamond dust prints, light boxes, and they collect everything. And I also build relationships with my collectors, and I'm never thirsty to sell anybody anything because my work is in such a limited edition that I know it's going to sell anyway. If anything, I get mad at people when they don't buy it because they missed out. And they're like, "But why didn't you tell me?" I'm like, "Well, I'm sorry. Maybe you should have known." I'm not thirsty for sales ever. I just plant seeds and put my work out there. Very important. Never be thirsty. People can smell the thirst, smell the desperation. And a lot of artists, they care more about networking from a thirsty standpoint as opposed to a truly connecting standpoint, which is what it's about for me. I want to connect with people, feed their souls with the art on the walls.
So I have a Drebin, is that initiation of the connection.
I didn't make this up. This was something that was presented to me. I sort of looked at it and said, that's interesting. I like that concept. Hey, you want to buy a photograph by this guy or that guy or this guy? I really feel like it's my own brand. And I think what makes a great artist is when you can look at the work, whether you like it or not, and it's instantly recognizable to that artist. And I feel like I have that with all my art forms. You can always tell a David Drebin photograph, diamond dust work, neon sculpture, light box. And that to me is what I'm most proud of, not the sales. We sell every day all over the world. But what I'm most proud of when I look at what I've created is the instantly recognizable style that's my own.
How do you create a style without getting trapped in it, David? It's one thing to have a brand, right? And then, what was the uproar around the new Coke, right? When we were also accustomed to drinking the old Coke. How do you continue to create while not giving up what feels like the intrinsic nature of the brand?
That's a good question. I think dynamic range. I can photograph men, women, men and women, people by themselves, groups, cities. I feel like my neons with words make you imagine images, and my images make you imagine words, and I don't have creative slumps. It's just all within me, and it's all within you. I don't really analyze it too much. I just create and learn from the mistakes that I've made each and every time, and then try to fix those mistakes for next time. I've got a lot more bad images than I have good images.
So let's talk about failure. Almost everyone comes on the show and talks about, wow, we tried to launch that product. That was a doozy. One of our guests a couple of weeks ago was telling us at Disney, they invented a toy gun that had these haptic receptors that you could put on your body. You could feel the impact of the bullets hitting you. And that was a toy designed for kids. Like, your friend could shoot you and you could feel what it feels like to be shot. Like, who wants that from the House of Mouse, right? Fascinating invention, but probably not what any mom wants to buy their kid to know the sensation of being shot, right? We try to protect our kids from that all day. So when it comes to trying something new and innovating and it failing, can you give us an example of that as an artist, what that feels like?
For me, I feel like I was trained to create art through tools, but I was never trained to manage people. And I feel like my biggest failures have been letting certain people in that I thought were my friends, but were actually kind of like frenemies to bring on my team. My biggest mistakes have been my greatest lessons, which is working with the wrong people, hiring the wrong people. And what I've learned is I used to be quick to hire and slow to fire. And now I'm very slow to hire, very quick to fire. That for me is my best lesson. It's like I play a lot of tennis, and the more I play, the better I get. The more I play, the better I get. The more shots I hit the net, more shots I hit out, the more I learn. So I think you just have to keep on creating, and you just get better as you do it. But the real failures for me that I've learned the most from have been the people that I've surrounded myself with. And now I've learned that when you hang out with winners, the conversation's just different. And I try to be a savior with people. And now I just want to be with people who are winners and people who underpromise and overdeliver as opposed to people who promise. A lot of promises out there. I don't believe in words or actions. I believe in patterns. And now I watch patterns very, very closely. I just study people and see myself more like a psychographer than anything else. Not a photographer, not an artist, not an entrepreneur, not an artrepreneur, but I'm a psychographer.
Artrepreneur, is that a discussion that goes on in your circles? An artrepreneur?
These are my circles. These are my circles in my mind. I have conversations with myself.
Or do we have to cut you open and count the rings to figure out what's going on in there?
No, I feel like what I think and what I say are very much in sync. And a lot of people, when I speak to them, I wonder if what they're saying and what they're thinking are the same. That's a very big thing for me, is to see how authentic people are, how genuine they are, because you just never know people's intentions. But over time, they always reveal themselves through patterns.
Mm. So does that mean you have a combination of being believer before a seer? Now, as we age, we get a little bit more seeing is believing, patterns are believing, as opposed to just the believing before seeing.
For me now, it's trust and then verify.
Hey, it's Susan here. Like what you're hearing so far? Make sure you never miss an episode by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. So thank you for being here. Whether it's your first time or you're 10 episodes deep, if you want to learn more about me and the work that I do with innovation leaders, head over to susanlindner.com for more information. I'm always open to a conversation to learn how I might better support you. But for right now, let's get back to the show. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And I imagine that also leads to your artistic instinct too, right? I mean, it was a risk, one might say, going from the kinds of photography that you were doing, even some of the really unique sculpture and books that you had done, but taking this next shift into the diamond dust collection. What inspired that? How did that all come together? And for those of you who don't know, the diamond, and maybe you can explain it, David, but I look at that diamond dust collection. It's like this beautiful printed material with this glittering surface on top. And it adds this level of luxury and beauty and unexpected hint of glamour in the work that you already do, which is pretty glamorous.
I never saw this as a risk ever.
Mm.
Never thought about risk. I felt like this is what I was meant to do in life. And I knew that I needed to elevate myself from just being a photographer. So I created all these different art forms to show my range. And the diamond dust is exactly the way you explained it. And it kind of elevates you. I've seen a lot of diamond dust works before, but I've seen artists kind of take famous imagery and then sprinkle diamond dust on that imagery and claim it as their own. And I thought to myself, what if I just took my existing imagery that's well known all over the world, that's been in all of my books, and then make prints with diamond dust and then show them in the best galleries and the most prestigious art fairs all over the world? Because it's not just about what you create, it's about where you show what you create. And context is everything. Context is everything. I mean, look at a tennis player. A tennis player can play a tournament in cities all over the world, but the ones they care about the most are the Grand Slams. Paris, New York, Melbourne, London. They want the Grand Slams. And I want to be in the world of Grand Slams of art. Art Basel, galleries in Paris, galleries in New York, galleries in Berlin. That's important to me, to be in the world of Grand Slams when it comes to art.
Yeah. And how important to you is the company that you keep? Who else is exhibiting?
I love hanging out with losers. Losers are amazing to me. Yeah, love losers. If you're a loser, call me. Email me, David at daviddrebin.com. If you're a loser and you complain about life and you're fraudulent and you're fake, just give me a call or email me. I like hanging out with people smarter than me. Lately I've been reading more books than spending time with people because I can get to know the minds of some of the greatest minds of all time. So I'm loving books right now. I love Ryan Holiday is a huge inspiration for me, and his bookstore that he opened in Texas, and Robert Greene. I love the Stoics, and I love what he has to say. I mean, I'm actually very inspired by authors far more than artists and great minds. So to answer your question, I want to surround myself with greatness.
So let's talk about that, because you are stepping into some really brave new worlds with your art. First step is this entire NFT revolution that is taking the art world by storm. And for those of you who are not clued in, a non-fungible token is a means of digitally sharing art in a way that we haven't before, and in a way that is 100% protected. Now, even though these are images that you might have seen a million times, like a cat playing a piano, or Jack Dorsey's first tweet, which has now been converted into an image, an NFT, that is a digital image that can be bought and shared. This is really rocking the art world. So tell us first how you started thinking about NFTs, and what did you think about it at first?
I don't jump into anything until I do the research and study it very closely. And I've been contacted by many different agencies all over the world and people all over the world to do NFTs. And I really was very hesitant until I had a conversation with the people at Vayner NFT, because I used to work with Gary Vaynerchuk and Vayner Talent a few years ago. And when I had a conversation with them, I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this with the experts, the people who know the terrain. It's like when you go to Italy and you want to get a tour guide, it's better to get someone who knows the terrain as opposed to trying to figure it all out yourself.
Yeah, we're not climbing Mount Everest on our own.
Exactly. So for me, if I don't know the terrain of anything, I will find the experts to guide me. And that's what I'm doing. And we're actually releasing the 18 diamond dust works that I'll be showing at our Basel in our solo booth at Art Miami with Contessa Gallery. We're releasing one-of-one diamond dust editions as NFTs with Vayner NFT on the eve of the opening of Art Miami at Art Basel.
How exciting is that? Wow. And so if you are unfamiliar with David's diamond dust collection, please check out his website, which is just phenomenal. I mean, you'll be salivating from the images by the end, but it's daviddrebin.com. So how will you do it? Will you do it as an auction where people can bid on this?
That's what we're doing. Collection? We're doing it as a one-on-one auction, and we're still working out which distribution platform that we're going to be working with. But it's all about the collaborators. People think they can do it themselves, but there's really no I in team. You need to find the right partners in all aspects of life. So I feel like I found the right partners, the right concept, the right distribution, and we're just going to plant the seeds and make it happen.
Yeah. So what is your hope? What's your expectation for what's going to take place?
My expectation is zero every day, all day. I just plant seeds and build relationships and try to make people feel great through art, conversation, actions, and patterns. My expectations for nothing's guaranteed in life.
One might say that inherent in the seed is a hope and an expectation. Are you telling me you're just planting and you go, whatever?
I feel like managing expectations is the key to life. And if you expect something that doesn't happen the way you expect it to, it can have devastating moments for people when things don't happen for them. And I think a lot of mental health issues, I'm not an expert, but for my own mental health, I think to myself, manage my expectations every single day. Of course, I hope that at our Basel that we sell every single print and people are lined up to buy the works and people are buying the NFTs, but I'm very cautious with everything. And I think if you put out a great product in the world that you really believe in, it's really about why do people do what they do? Not how can I monetize what I do? Why? And I do this because I love how people feel when they look at the art. That's why I do it. I do it for the people. So my expectation is that people love it and they feel amazing. And winning is ultimately what I want to do. And money is a byproduct of winning. I never focus on money. I always focus on winning. Everyone I know who wants fast money never make fast money.
That's true.
Nothing happens fast unless you're scammy. I don't like scammy people. I like real people who work hard. And I always look at the why. Why do you do what you do? That's what interests me. So I love my why, and I want to put this out to the world. And I've done pretty well so far in the 27 years of doing this. I mean, I've been at this for like 12,000 days, every single day, relentlessly, all day, every day. Every day, never a day off, ever.
So does that mean you have a camera in your hand or a notebook in your hand or something else all day?
I'm going to show you my camera. You ready? You want to see it?
Yeah.
What? What's so funny? It's my camera. I'll do it again.
Well,
I see situations. I'm like this. Note to self. Note to self. Note to self. Camera doesn't matter. It's all about your imagination.
I was just going to say, can you hang on to it?
I can.
So I was reading Elizabeth Gilbert's book. She's the author of Eat, Pray, Love.
Love her.
And she wrote a phenomenal book called Big Magic. And it's all about the art and science of creativity in her experience. And she believes that if an idea is not cultivated and cultured and nurtured and taken care of and pampered and treated well, it will quickly find someone else who will take fond care of it and raise it to the standard that it desires to be, that an idea isn't itself its own organism. And it needs to be treated with that level of respect. And when a great idea hits, you had better hold on to it with both hands and then put it into the world. And so, have you had this experience of having a great idea that you didn't pursue and watched it go off into the world into somebody else's hands?
Let me tell you, I don't think about an idea that I could have had that someone else may have been able to cultivate more than me, but I do think about that book, Big Magic, a lot. And what Elizabeth Gilbert says in that book is that she'll be driving on the highway and all of a sudden a thought will come up in her mind and she just pull over to the side of the road and write it down. And I feel that same thing happens to me on a very regular basis. If I have an idea, I just make it happen. If I believe the idea artistically is a good idea, like I just make it happen. I don't think, I don't want to do that. I think I'm going to do that because I think that's a good idea. The quieter it is, the louder the voices are in your mind. And a lot of people can have really loud music and be surrounded by loudness, but that's not when the mind is still and can hear those things. It's when your mind is still that creativity comes to you, when you let things go. It's important to not try to control the world. So what I've learned is you can't control the world, but you can control how you react to the world around you. And I really learned that from Elizabeth Gilbert in Big Magic. I love that book. I love that book.
That's funny. Yeah, it's intriguing for me because we get so busy in the midst of our day. If we don't stop and pull over and really take the idea seriously, she says it will go on and find another host, essentially, who will take that brilliant idea and bring it into the world.
I don't believe it's like, okay, David, here's an idea for you. If you don't do it, someone else will. I believe this is an idea for you. And if you don't create this, then it's never going to be created. I don't think it passes through me to another person. I think it passes through me. And if I don't do it, then I lose. I don't ever think about competition other than my own reflection and my own effort. You can only control your effort. You can't control the results ever.
Right.
So I don't think about anybody else but me and my imagination when it comes to creativity.
Yeah. And I don't even necessarily mean it from a competitive standpoint. Almost any venture capitalist will tell you that, oh, we're seeing all these AI investments in artificial intelligence right now. Oh, we're seeing all these Internet of Things investments right now, startups that are popping up. And there's something about this creative intelligence that winds up happening around us at the same time, right? There were so many MP3 players before the iPod came out. There were all of these different things before, but this phenomenal idea that kind of breaks through and goes, that's the game changer. But all of us are having it's coalescing as the idea gets stronger and stronger. Competition aside, right? There's just a mindset that rises up in the collective that says, it's time now, in a way that we couldn't have had it before. So the other thing I want to ask you about, because we talked about it briefly beforehand, was so NFTs are a fascinating part of what's going on in the world, right? And you have people creating NFTs out of just about anything. And then you have a guy like Banksy who's shredding his own work. Forget about creating something new. He's creating something new by destroying something old, right? But you're even looking a little bit further down the road. And you and I were talking about art going public and potentially even looking at IPOs as a new way of artists expressing themselves in the market. And I'm wondering if you can share a little bit more about that.
Can't really share about that yet. It's still in the process. And it's kind of like Michael Jackson buying the Beatles archive, Universal Music buying Taylor Swift's archive of music. And that's kind of the premise of it, is working with investors who want to be relevant and want a piece of you. And you have to provide value to them. And if you're willing to even do that, if you're willing to have other people invest in you and deal with annual reports and being a little bit more accountable, that kind of thing. So I'm still new with that, but that's what innovation is all about. And innovation storytelling is all about, is never resting on your laurels and always be looking to new opportunities and to trust and verify each potential opportunity that's been given to you. So I basically trust and verify all day long in a world of people who have to see it to believe it, while I believe it to see it. That's my motto every day, all day.
Fascinating. So what's next on the artistic front? Do you think, is there you've done sculpture and photography and so light boxes and neon. What's next? Is there another brave frontier that you want to try your hand at?
Right now, we're doing 6, 7 different art forms, but I also think voice is an art form, and public speaking is an art form, and doing podcasts is an art form. And that's very important to me. And I've been doing a lot of podcasts lately, and they used to send me the questions beforehand, but now I don't want to have any of the questions beforehand. And the motivation has to always be why. Why more art forms? Why podcasts? And the reason why I want to do podcasts is because all it takes is one person listening to feel a connection to the experience that I have and what I'm saying, to maybe help them pursue their dream and help them believe it to see it. Because I really believe most people are see it to believe it people, because they're too scared to believe it to see it for whatever reason. Upbringing, parents, school, education. I'm not sure. So I think the greatest art form ever is to inspire other people. And that is really what my motivation is to inspire other people to believe in themselves.
Have you thought about making a neon installation that says, believe it to see it?
Interesting.
I keep seeing it in my head while we're talking, thinking about
it's just
the work.
not really like, I like my neons to be a little bit nastier. I like a little bit of nasty, a little bit of sexy, a little bit funny. And that's just not, it's not funny and it's not nasty and it's not sexy. So no.
I'll let you figure out the parameters of all those three. I do a little bit of stand-up comedy, and I was giving a very professional talk about all things innovation storytelling, and the group said, "Hey, can you do 3 minutes of stand-up at the end?" And I thought to myself, I'm the 1 a.m. comic, with the 3 drink minimum who goes on because it's way too dark otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
So, David, you are going to be exhibiting at Art Basel this winter. Tell us what people can expect if they have the amazing opportunity to go down to Miami and see you there. What will they see?
Well, I've been showing with Contessa Gallery at Art Miami during Art Basel for the last 17, 18 years.
Wow.
And this is the first year I've had my own solo booth. So we have a solo booth. There hasn't been an art fair in 2 years. It's going to be rocking.
Crazy. Yeah.
It's going to be very busy. And this has been the moment for me to actually unleash these 22 large scale works with Contessa Gallery during Art Basel at Art Miami, because I have such a huge collector base around the world. And a lot of the collectors are actually my friends. They're all going to be there. And so I just want to connect with the people and show them the work. That's what I want to do. So that starts November 30th. And that's also the same day that we're releasing the NFTs with Vayner NFT and the distribution platform that we haven't decided on yet. So it's going to be a big moment for me to connect with people. Yeah. It's all about connecting and why. Why, how. Yeah.
And now you've got the what. Now you've got this incredible new NFT that people have the opportunity to take with them anywhere around the world. And it's have a Drebin in your pocket. Like Steve Jobs and 1,000 songs in your pocket, you can now have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny. I photographed Steve Jobs for Newsweek when that article came out in Newsweek about the first iPod.
Wow.
In San Francisco, and I spent the day with him, and I didn't even know who he was. I was like, I guess I'm just going to photograph some business guy at Apple, whatever. And I spent the day with him, and he was the coolest guy, wearing the black turtleneck, the jeans, and showing me the iPod. And that was an unbelievable experience looking back. When I didn't even realize who I was with and what I was doing. All day we spent, gave me a tour of Apple. And I was like, this guy's brilliant and kind of quiet and strange, but I guess we'll just make the picture and figure it out. Steve Jobs. What a beauty. What a beauty.
Wow. We're coming up. We just hit the 10-year anniversary of his passing.
Wow.
Well, David, I am so grateful to have had you on the podcast today. Thank you so much. So all of our guests, I asked them 3 hot seat questions, and I'm very curious to hear the answers from you. So out of all the innovations, past, present, maybe future, like what do you think are some of the greatest innovations in human history? Like you have a very different lens as an artist, but what do you think are some of the greatest innovations?
mean, how do you even answer? I don't even know how to answer that question. How about language? How about the ability to speak and all the different languages in the world? The ability to get on a plane and fly, just driving a car. I mean, just think about in 100 years, people will be flying cars. People might even be able to fly themselves. People might even be able to create the baby that they want with the features that they want and go to a store and go, okay, I want green eyes. I want to be a girl and I want to have a small nose and big lips. That you just never, it's about the future of innovation. The ultimate innovation ever is how do people figure out how to speak through behavior and voice? That to me blows my mind, is all the different languages all over the world. I like looking back.
Wow. So an innovation team that you would have loved to have been on, what would you have loved to help create with a team of other people?
You may not love my answer, but I love the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I wish I was on the management team to create this team and go in the locker room and talk to these guys and you just motivate them and be a part of building the Toronto Maple Leafs to win a Stanley Cup. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Isn't that amazing? You can take.
True. I love hockey because it reminds me of my grandfather and growing up and those formative years. We would take me to the hockey games, and I wish I could be a part of their management team. I really do. I wish they'd call me. And I actually know the president of the Leafs. I wish they'd call me and go, do you want to be a part of this? I wouldn't drop everything, but I'd love to be part of that management team from a psychological standpoint.
Wow.
Like talking to them in the intermission, making them feel good after the game, the pregame, the mid-game, the post-game. If you really want to know, that's the first thing that came to my mind.
Amazing. Amazing. A, that you see sports as innovative in general, right? And B, that you want to be part of that. I love how you can take the boy out of Canada, but you can't take the Canuck out of that.
So true.
That's great. And so looking forward, if you think about it, what's one innovation you wish you had?
I don't think about things I don't have. I think about the things that I do have. That's how I live. I take what I've been given and I squeeze the juice out of it every single day. And when I meet other people, I think to myself, please don't be wasted talent. There's nothing that irks me more than wasted talent. And I know a lot of people who didn't pursue their dreams. Wasted talent. Squeeze the juice out of what you've been given and get in touch with that and just go and plant the seeds and make it happen.
Amen. Fantastic. David, thank you so much for being on Innovation Storytellers today. We are grateful to have you, our very first artist on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now you might be asking, Susan, why innovation storytelling? Well, the truth is that an innovation story told well not only breaks down communication barriers so you can drive change and new growth, but it also helps other people remember and champion your work. And it propels your best ideas forward faster to secure you the runway, resources, and recognition you so richly deserve. In other words, stories are memory-making devices that significantly reduce the time it takes for you and your innovation to be understood. But like many leaders, you probably never got the memo that storytelling skills would be central to your success. Well, I've got some good news for you. It's not too late because I've got you covered. Whether you need an expert to come and speak to your innovation leaders, you need training in the art and method of innovation storytelling, or you just need the support and guidance of a consultant who can get you where you want to go in less time, visit www.susanlinder.com today to learn more and to set up a call to discuss your needs. I'm so looking forward to connecting with you and to helping you tell a great innovation story. If you liked what you heard so far, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. And leave us a comment. Tell us what you think of this episode. We'd love to hear from you. And if you didn't like what you've heard, just forget everything I've said.